gotta put the time in. Wake up, Billy's. Wake up, Billy's. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show by people. Billy's our hope, so to needless reason. Nobody feel left out. Is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that will feel happen like I got blue skies. I love it make people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Billy's here. Wake up, Billy's. Wake up, Billy's. Another day is here. Wake up, Billy's. Wake up, Billy's. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Billy's. Wake up, Billy's. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Billy's. Wake up, Billy's. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Get up, make every day count. Don't waste it, people. Do your part, play a role, get where you need to. You can tune in from work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait till the time calling? It's a show with no matter even if you're at home. Just call in. WB. Wake up, Billy's. Wake up, Billy's. Another day is here. Wake up, Billy's. Wake up, Billy's. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Billy's. Wake up, Billy's. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Billy's. Wake up, Billy's. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show, my people. Billy's our hope, so to needless reason. Nobody feel left out. Is the vibe with the
Good morning, Belize. Welcome to the WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes for today, Wednesday, the 26th of February, 2025. We're glad you're here. Glad you're listening to us on Creme Radio, watching us on XTV, getting us via apps or social media streams and simulcast coverage. It's just great having you on board for the Wednesday morning edition of Belize's premier morning conversation, the WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. I'm hosting today, Mose Hyde. A pleasure always, with gratitude. We hope that your health is great, your energy is high, your vibrations positive, and that your morning enables you to not only be present, but that as soon as we open up for conversation, you're able to jump in and participate. You know that the way we're there for. We want to get you on board. We need to get your thoughts, your views, and all that great stuff. We don't jump right into that though. We've got your warm-ups, which means that we get you up to date with some news. But first of all, we've got some weather information for you. Directly from the National Meteorological Service, the latest available weather forecast is next. And we've got forecaster Tariq Matthews to give that to us.
Good morning, Belize. Fair, cool, and prevail. The 24-hour forecast. Sunny skies today and clear skies tonight. No rainfall is expected. The maximum temperatures for today will reach 83 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 85 inland and 69 up in the hills. The low temperatures for tonight will be around 70 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 60 inland and 58 up in the hills. The winds will be from the east-northeast at 5 to 10 knots. And the sea conditions will be like chop. A high tide will occur this morning at 9:28, a low tide this afternoon at 2:45, another high tide tonight at 9:03, and another low tide early tomorrow morning at 4:02. The sun will rise this morning at 6:13 and will set this evening at 5:58. The moon will set this evening at 4:52 and will rise tomorrow morning at 5:58. In the sarcasm forecast, latest satellite imagery and surface observations continue to show sarcasm increasing over our area. Moderate impacts are expected for the next few days. The outlook for Thursday and Thursday night is for fair weather with little to no rainfall. For a review of our forecast and other products, please visit our website at nms.gov.bz. With that, we're in this morning's forecast from the Belize National Met Service.
The first prime Belize since 1989. Creme FM presents the news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
A total of 90 candidates were nominated to contest the March 12th general elections in the 31 electoral divisions. Based on a breakdown from the Elections and Boundaries Department, the PUP fielded 31 candidates, the UDP 41. Notably, they did not provide a breakdown based on the two factions, but we can report that the SB-UDP nominated 25 candidates and the TP-UDP nominated 15 candidates, while Anthony Boots Martinez is also deemed a UDP candidate. 4 third parties are contesting the elections along with 4 independent candidates. Those third parties are the Belize Justice Movement with 7 candidates, including Rudy Wade from Cayo, the Good Opportunity Development Party fielding 1 candidate, the People's National Party fielding Will Mejia in Toledo East and Andrew Reynolds in Belize Rural North, and the People's Democratic Party fielding 4 candidates led by Esteban Pereira Sr. In a historic occurrence, 2 incumbent People's United Party candidates, Henry Usher in Fort George and Anthony Marlowe in Pickstock, have been declared winners of their division by default. That's because no other candidate showed up on nomination day Monday to be nominated. The Representation of the People Act, ROPA, provides for this. Section 4 states if at 4 o'clock in the afternoon only 1 candidate has been nominated for the seat to be filled, the returning officer shall forthwith declare such candidate to have been elected and shall immediately thereafter certified by endorsement on the writ of election the return of that candidate according to Form 20 of the 5th schedule and shall return the writ so endorsed to the Commission for transmission to the Governor General. Mose Shine Baron, who slayed Dean Trevor Collins, Melvin Hewlett were running, made the claim Tuesday that they were bought out. He stated that Dean Samuels presented a doctor paper, and in the case of a third Belize candidate, Raymond Rivers for Collett, he had issues with locating all his nominators. Based on the unprecedented historical developments, Marlow and Usher were called back to the Civic at 4 p.m. and were declared the winners of their respective seats. Meanwhile, candidates for the SB-UDP slate in Dan Grigor, Norman Usher, and in Toledo East, Dennis Leisha Williams did not show up to get nominated. Nonetheless, elections will proceed in those divisions, given that for both those divisions there are independent and third-party candidates running. Cyril Uribe Garcia is contesting the Dan Grigor election, while William Mejia is contesting the Toledo East division for the People's National Party. They will face Dr. Louis Zabane and Dr. Osman Martinez, respectively. An attorney had complained that Tango A and B in Belize Central Prison had been placed on total lockdown beginning last week Thursday, with prisoners in those two wings not being allowed the usual 1-hour recreation, phone calls, or outside food from their families, making them incommunicado. Additionally, they had indicated it would be unlikely lawyers would be allowed to see their clients. However, prison CEO Virgilio Murillo explained to Creme News XTV that no prisoner is prevented from seeing the attorney, even during a lockdown. He explained, however, that the building was placed on lockdown for about 4 days as means of establishing order and discipline, as the prisoners were stealing items from each other. According to Murillo, the items have all been recovered. He also indicated that the phone calls, outside food, and recreation are all privileges. A resident of Kamalota Village, 24-year-old Wilhelm Lansbourt Corey, has made a claim that St. Ignacio police have kept his motorcycle for an extended period despite him providing all his documentation to show proof of ownership and updated licensing. He shared that he and a friend were detained last week Monday at the Red Bank checkpoint by police in an unmarked vehicle. He reports that they were held for 48 hours without a charge and his cycle has still not been returned to him.
Ex-Bradley charter me because in a Sangnaso police station for signing, right? We may go good while we reach the Sangnaso checkpoint or block in color pick up. And I have no police stickers, no license plate, no light on the top of male person, then pull out a firearm with in a civilian clothes, no mark of police, no, not like that. And then my friend tell me make we just drive off, so I drive off and we escape from the police, but we never have nothing illegal or nothing like that, right? We go then go around the checkpoint, go around the next side with the house truck, but then the same block pick up, meet we head and then we stop. Then my friend so he noticed the police, so then we stop. When we stop off for the motorbike, then the police officer come aggressive. 2 police officers with a male and a female made in there. One of them come and just kick me down. The man put me feel down, right? Then he bend my hand and the man put me in my back. Then he press the foot by my jaw corner, right? Then finally tell boy, 8 to 10 minutes and another tell police. Mobile reach, then they put the handcuff on we. Then the officer with a GI3 may have a body cam. But he put it on till put in the that's the police pick up. Then they carry to the station, so how we detain for traffic offense. As a serious traffic offense, if people get a call, make them know where we are about, right? The officer said, right now, I deal with that. Then they start put in a cell block. We don't spend most of like 5 hours. We ask what we call them, miss. No call. 5 different hours that we ask, nobody assist at all with the phone call, right? We're going out to the 48 hours, no phone call at all. In the night, then so we like PI robbery, I tell us, so which robbery if we just approach car and then so when we the coin of car, right? We don't have no illegal thing, right? When the 48 hours done, they let we go, give we back everything, money, jewelry, everything. After that, I tell them, man, sir, my cycle I have, legit, I have all the documents, the insurance, the paper, everything I have. With the cycle, also my driver's license, everything I have. So when I bring my document, yeah, give me the cycle. I say, okay, then I say, I my motorbike, I also have a different engine, all right. I tell her I bring a receipt on the person I buy it from to prove, right? The man named Mr. They start accuse me a lot of things happen on Sangna. So I tell her, sir, I don't care for them there. When I don't hold me for 48 hours, tell her, see the documents, and he check it, then he say, oh, this is a fake. I say, right, if you say this is a fake, if you go to city council, if you go to the insurance spot, the man say, I know they pan that, that's a take the cycle of a big man. Tell her, how you take that? Tell her, big man, with all due respect, all I need, that my documents, make I go for you. He said, shut up for I will lock you down for 40 days. So you say, you and a young man, he say, I will drop a charge for you and I ban you from quiet. Tell her how you ban me for.
Commissioner of Police Chester Williams said he did not know of the specific case but made a general suggestion to businesses so as to address a modus operandi of some robbers.
I know we have an issue with motorcycles right now where it is the modus or the means of transportation for most crimes being committed now. And I would like to warn the public, particularly business places, to please put up a sign at the entrance of a place to say, take off your helmet before entering. Because we're seeing that the robbers are going into business establishment wearing these coverall helmets to commit crime. So let them put a sign that says that nobody wearing a helmet is going to be allowed admission into the establishments. I think that is going to help in trying to reduce these complaints where persons wearing helmets are going to these business places and committing crime.
In more election news, the Elections and Boundaries Commission met on Tuesday and by a vote of 4-1 decided that all 41 candidates vying for the general elections as UDP candidates will get to wear the traditional red collar. The commission explains that firstly, the leaders of each of the two factions maintain that they are the legitimate leaders of the UDP and that their candidates are legitimate UDP members. Secondly, the legal dispute over who is the rightful leader of the UDP remains unresolved and is set for trial on March 31st, 2025, after the general election of 12th March 2025. The Commission has also taken into account that the High Court did not grant any order restraining Tracy Panton from holding herself out as the UDP leader or from using related UDP items, including the party's name and symbols, reinforcing the need for the EBC's balanced and impartial stance. The Commission says it is committed to ensuring a fair and impartial elections and also notes that since the courts have yet to determine the rightful leadership of the UDP, the EBC has taken its approach to maintain neutrality, absolute even-handedness, and uphold electoral integrity. That's the end of the morning news update here inside the WUB Wake Up Believe's Morning Vibes. We'll take ourselves a break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to open up for a conversation.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989. The news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports.
When you bank your way, it's amazing.
All right, welcome back. This is WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. This is when the talking begins. This is where the conversation starts. This is where you take full advantage of the open conversation format that we have here on Creme Radio XTV by simply giving us a call. The telephone number is 280-5848. That's the direct line for you to participate in the conversation, and we hope that you were able to get in. Preferably come in early. We do have a guest coming in via Zoom after 7:30 break, so we encourage you to call in early and be a part of the conversation. Mose Hyde hosting today, Wednesday, the 26th of February, 2025. So we still have not heard any definitive results from the investigation into 3 tourists, and as we pointed out consecutive mornings, and more so yesterday, that this matter is of great importance. We're on the clock and we're on the world stage with this very unfortunate triple tragedy. And I mentioned yesterday, and I see that after that some people kind of started to put out that this news item has been covered around the world. Been major publications, New York Post has it, Daily Mail, The Mirror, that was the UK. We have the Jamaican publications. We have publications in Trinidad and Grenada, various publications across the United States and Canada. Like, this story's been out there, and we know that one of the news reports that I think it was might have been Channel 7 that reported last night that the mayor of the city or town where they're from is concerned and does not believe that the Belize Police Department has been transparent. Strange enough, I think Monday we started to say, listen, you've got to bring your best version of yourself, and you have to, something bad has happened. Don't do as you would do here in Belize, where you try to, make we just put that under the rug and make that pass, because there are other places that are like they're not Lego things like that. They got a more lockjaw approach when something like this has happened. Then they don't okay, well, we move on as easy. The family is not going to just sit down, with just be very docile about this whole thing. That's not the way their culture traditions work. And so you have to present a very thorough work. And what I didn't get a chance to say yesterday is that, when I was having the conversation about looking at some of the comments on the various online news reports, global news reports, and most of these articles have a space for comments to the whole aspect of the possibility of fentanyl, which here in Belize we have not really taken about. Anyhow, I have a call. Krem, good morning.
Good morning, Mose. This is Sandra Toy. It's on the matter, but indirectly, that you're speaking about. Yesterday, I don't know if you're aware, that the British government has announced that it will increase the defense budget, I think, to 2.5% of the total GDP. And to do that, they are going to cut foreign aid. The British currently, apparently spend, I think it's 3.5, I may have my figures a little off, 3.5% on foreign aid, where they're going to shave off a portion of that foreign aid in order to increase the defense spending. Now, you see, Mose, this is exactly where a lack of vision, a people shall perish, applies. We in the Caribbean, I'm not going to deal with Latin America, we're all in the same, but I'm dealing with the Caribbean. The Caribbean took a very high the Ukrainian situation. Very hands-off approach. Because, well, I think for a number of reasons. One, generally they are white and they have done us a lot of harm, and so we really have no time to wait on sympathy for that crowd. Then, of course, in the course of the the world was alerted about some cases of racism that the Ukrainians displayed according to the press. And then, of course, because we knew that that would reduce the aid, we got upset and look at the amount of spending in Ukraine, and we're not getting that portion, all of that to flip. But nobody in the Caribbean knows seemed to understand the gravity that war was out. We are a step away from them doing to us what they are doing to Ukraine. Just take what happened in the Dominican Republic. When Mr. Rubio went there, not only I'm not surprised that the minerals in the Dominican Republic, I already know they're there. But I was fascinated that it's there the Americans chose to announce they are going to be mining Dominica's rare earth minerals. Nobody had ever heard that happening before. Aha! And that gave a substance to the claim that they're doing to Haiti and have done to Haiti what they have always done to Haiti because of Haiti's mineral wealth. That substantiated it. And as we speak, a whole new round of chaos is emerging in Haiti. As we speak, and they're already in American chaos, and the chaos is increasing exponentially. As we speak, it's in the international press. So, are they going to exterminate an entire people in order to control the mineral wealth of that island under the management of the Dominican half-breeds? They're half-breeds too. They are no less half-breeds than the Haitians are. That's what we are facing with. Whether we want to accept it or not.
I imagine you used it. Imagine you used the term half-breed as to hold the powers of the empire look at them. No, that's how they.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's what we are. That's what I am. I'm a half-breed. I'm a mongrel. I relish my mongrelity, if there's such a word. You know why? Because that means to my genetic coding, I bring both strengths and weaknesses of all the populations that make me up. And I have Africa, Europe, and Asia, and the Americas in my world, in my genetic coding. And I see the strengths in me. Of course, their weaknesses. I started to menstruate at 11 years. My sister started to menstruate at 10 years. Because of the Mayan genetic coding. Oh yeah. So there are weaknesses, but there are immense strengths. I raised a set of dog moles that were, I call them my hybrid mongrels. They were a mixture of German Shepherd, Husky, Ridgeback, and Spaniel. Everybody thought my dogs were chow chow and all kind of things. I said, no man, these dogs are mongrel. Then the dogs and the servant. But they were so well cared for that and cherished that they look super hybrid. So this is it. But look, so now in the Dominican, both even the reporters in that meeting sounded taken aback. It took everybody back to right there, with the president sounding rather frightened, and he sounded frightened to me, the Dominican president, in that press conference there. You see?
My concern, my concern, I appreciate and I understand the way that you have spun what would normally be used as a derogatory term and using your scientific understanding to really flip the term. But
I'm not spinning a tale, I'm telling the truth.
No. I'm not telling that you're spinning a tale. What I'm saying is that the term is used to look on us and deny us our full humanity because the way that many powerful people on the planet's elite spectrum look at non-white people is that we are not full human beings. They see so when they use their such terms, it is to demean, it's to take away, to kind of devalue us. And I suppose that it's important, because I know the analysis that you're giving, but words are important because not everyone understands how how the term half-breed can be looked at as some form of strength, being that we are mixed, have all these various genetic inheritances. To the everyday person indulging in the conversation, if I call them a half-breed or if I call them a mongrel, I am really demeaning them. I am really putting them down. So I just wanted to. I don't want to get into a whole full-blown conversation about how words are used. It's just to say that because I have to, as the host here, it's important that clarity be brought, because we could end up unintentionally putting out that kind of toxic energy that comes with that term usually. That's because it's usually comes with that package.
Accompanied by negative denotations and connotations.
Yes.
I agree, but there is a reality. Okay, some years ago they ran an article on a certain region in France. The people in that region, all their babies are born with the Mongolian patch. What is the Mongolian patch, Mose?
I don't know what the Mongolian patch is.
The Mongolian patch is that blue, a large blue patch, like a bruise at the base of the spine. All people who have Sino-Tibetan blood, it's called a Mongolian patch because of that. So, all Asiatic people of Sino-Tibetan origin and all Native Americans are born with that. The people in this part of France, the babies are born with that. Why? Because when Attila the Hun was rampaging across Europe, he would end his rampage in France. And some of his soldiers never returned. They didn't return because in those days you couldn't move easily. So the babies are born with the Mongolian patch. Many people in that region have the shovel-shaped incisors, the front teeth are shaped like shovels. When they bury their dead, whenever they have a funeral, everybody goes to the cemetery, but when the service is over, the men remain behind and the women go home. And they have come to understand that that is a cultural practice of the Mongolian people from when Attila the Hun came. In their cultural society, they stayed with the dead and stood guard over the dead because people would raid the grave site to take the gold out of their teeth. And when beginning to do, they knew they had connection with the babies, the birth of the babies with the blue patch evidence. But that's not an evidence you see, if you turn up on a stage when you're an adult, you're going to see that blue patch on you because it's long disappeared. But that was the physical, the genetic evidence of Mongolian blood, of Sino-Tibetan blood in that French population. So we don't know what we have.
Yes. So let me ask, because I think we've kind of sidetracked a bit. I think.
Not sidetracking. I'm on the same path.
No, I look at it as a bit of sidetracking because I wanted to just clarify the term and I kind of interrupted, but I felt it important to do. But you were making a point about the implications of the UK's decision yesterday, or the announcement of their decision that they're going to increase their military spending and they're going to reduce their foreign aid, and you were connecting it to the leadership in the Caribbean not being alert, not being focused, and not having vision. I think that's the term you use.
And not having been robust in joining in opposing and clamoring on the Ukrainian invasion. Mm-hmm. Because the Caribbean, look at the lead. Did we understand that what was being done to Ukraine was what the Guatemalans were proposing to do to us? We didn't understand it that way. We didn't understand it was annexation. Did the Tunisians follow the Russian invasion and the takeover of the Crimea in 2014? They didn't follow it. I don't know what we did at the UN. I know that it provoked a much response in the UN. But what we believed in, I don't know what we did on that matter. But that is annexation, and that is exactly what is being done to us. I know one of the arguments I kept using during the ICJ was the argument used for the rejection of the referendum held by Russia in the Crimea, that you cannot hold a referendum on annexation with an occupying army in place. If you check your records, you will find me saying that on your radio station. I said it on law. Didn't do any other radio station the way I used to do one thing with all the radio stations. I didn't do that anymore. But that was one of the primary arguments for the rejection of the referendum. Russia said, well, we have a referendum, and they said they want us to run it. But said, no, but that referendum was run under an occupying army. What did we have in the South when we went to the ICJ? Not an occupying army.
According to the diplomats and the ambassador.
I deal with the reality of what I know is in front of me and the measurements that are applied. I went to the Crimean situation and applied it there. I went to the Convention of Montevideo and applied the rules there for a state. We had a state. We then chose to take.
From my understanding, occupation is not based on how many people live in the place. Occupation is based on whether or not that territory is a part of your country, and it is a foreign military exercising authority over that area.
Exactly.
Then it's occupation, even if nobody lives there.
Even if nobody lives there. And we didn't, and our leadership wickedly, because you see they are outright diabolical in the way they manage our minds. And the Tunisian people are willing for their minds to be managed. But I am not. Leave me out of that. I have not. There's only one manager of my mind, and that's Almighty God. Nobody goes to manage my mind. And that is what we have here. So now we have the Caribbean did not understand that, yes, these people are right, people have done us a terrible deed, but this is a matter that we cannot afford to not identify with, because we have Guyana, we have Belize, and who knows where else we're going to have. Now we have the Dominican Republic
well,
Where's war? I want to wait, and then I can't go and wait on them because the Second World War, the First World War was civil war. I want the same cat, they'll catch up the same breed.
well,
That's what they have. Go ahead.
well, I think to make your point, the explanation given to why, and again, I have not seen anything that has emerged out of the recently held meeting of CARICOM leaders to feel that anything consequential went on there. But yes, they had a meeting. I think it was over the weekend into Monday. I confirm that before I go to break. Either way, I don't know how you missed it because Belize did. Belize. So Belize. Let me just finish. Let me just finish though. So Belize didn't send our leadership did not attend in person. And so I think we are the only head of state. Our head of state is the only, well, not head of state. Our prime minister, I believe, is the only prime minister that did not attend, or the foreign minister did not attend. We were told that we did participate virtually, and when asked, I believe it was the foreign minister was asked. I believe he was asked. I'm not sure. I think it was Jules that asked on Channel 7. Not being there in person is critical. You can't be a part of the yes, I forgot the term, but to say, yes, I understand how these works. You have side meetings. You can't participate in any of these. The explanation given was that, well, we're in the middle of our election, so you can't expect or the leadership of the country to go to this meeting since we are having a general election. That's not going to be a good situation. And I'm thinking, well, the point of raising it is just to show how absurd it is. It's not only inadequate; it's absurd. The tectonic plates of the planet are in upheaval. So you cannot. Yes, you're having your elections, but when the ground under you is moving, and essentially a lot of this began, this significant shifting of the plates under our feet, it really began with what took place in the Ukraine, and then it has kind of just, completely mushroomed with the ascension of Mr. Trump to the presidency. So for you not to understand that of all the meetings you cannot be physically present, it's this particular one. No, they could probably now argue that, well, unfortunately, at least I have not read anything or seen anything that has come out of that meeting that shows that there was any high priority thinking and planning that reflects the complete chaos that exists on the planet in 2025. No, that is not to say that those conversations were not held. I'm just saying I have not seen anything, heard anything, but I know that at best our leadership here can only tell us about what they saw on the Zoom or whatever means they used to be participating virtually, because they didn't even attend.
Well, that brings me now to this, from that. Look, I don't know about you, but I am. There are times when I can just laugh it off and move away. But right now, there's a feeling in me of deep distaste for the constant use of platitudes. What's a platitude? A platitude is a statement that makes a big sound pretty when it's far from pretty, very ugly. I know you're looking nice and healthy. And Mose looks consoled themselves that what I have told him is true when it's not true. And he jolly well knows it's not true. But the part of us that want to be reassured say, thank you, I feel good for a little minute about it. This morning I heard, I think it was on the news item, I don't know, that there are Belizeans concerned about the state of our democracy. Man, we don't have a democracy, Belizeans. Let's get real, not for once, let's get real for once. Democracy comes from the Greek word meaning people, the rule of the people. Which rule of which people? All the people in Belize. So if all the people in Belize know them, how come those two young men, well, I heard a half a report just now, I didn't hear the whole report, but it seemed to me that what happened with some set of young men out there in Cairo was a proper injustice. Isn't that what it was?
Mm-hmm. With their motorbike.
Yes. When we go stop tell us, if we have a democracy, how come three young ladies die in their room out there and stuff? They are foreigners. And remember, we have a tendency to downplay foreign suffering in this country. I have personally been involved in the course of my life in getting white women medical attention when they have been raped, because everybody treats them with a hands-off approach. They look for it. I personally can attest to that, and if my friend is going to report this country, he can attest to it, because he has brought me the people to get help with it, and they're not getting no treatment, they're just pushing them around, and no way. So those three women there, if their people don't fight for them to get a true and proper hearing on this matter, they will be what to the side. Isn't that so?
I think we treat our own selves with tremendous. Yeah, I think the overall attitude of our enforcement system is careless, and we just want it to pass and get out of the news cycle. If you ask me, if it's not something that is easily explained and solved to the naked eye, we not got much bandwidth for it. We not got no thoroughness, and we not have no staying power when it comes to. I was just 2 weeks ago. They came out and they said that they finally confirmed the Jack the Ripper. Some DNA they've been able to know, and they now know exactly who it is, and there was this big announcement 2 weeks ago. I feel like the Jack the Ripper case took place over 150 years, I don't know, about over 150 years ago. And I'm like, these people have not given up on solving a case that is over 150 years old. We don't have no, we give up on a case in 150 minutes. If it's too complicated, it's done. I don't know. I hear you, and it's easier to dismiss it's easier to dismiss something that you don't feel any connection because they're not from here. You don't have to deal with their family. But very often these people will actually come to Belize and put the pressure, and their embassies and their diplomats, they don't give up. And in this case, I believe that that's what we're experiencing, and we can look at the way they've.
What is going to happen? The matter will be tried in the international center, right or wrong. It will be tried out there. It will be investigated out there, tried out there, the whole thing. The same people that do the damage control first try and keep the thing looking not so bad. In fact, it will not look bad, it will look horrible because of that. Which brings me to the last point. In the same way we tell platitudes, this is a racially, I don't know if United Country or some nonsense, we are a democracy, we are this, how we are a democracy, Mr. Man, if our ballot has on each ballot paper when you walk into the ballot box, what is called the voting thing, cubicle. When you walk in there, the ballot paper you has on a number that no other ballot paper has on. That ballot paper you has on a number no other ballot paper. So that ballot paper identifies who voted on that ballot. If you're so committed to democracy, why don't you take the numbers off that ballot paper and let us have an Australian ballot? Let us have that kind of ballot, which is what they have in the UK and the US, but because they want to maintain control over us on eternity, they have put in place a messed up system, and we think it's just fine. Then look at the divisioning. We are going to an election with all our leadership, political leadership, complying with the law, with the Constitution, the law of the Constitution. That now has no meaning to them, and it evidently has no meaning to the populace either. But we are a democracy. And this is the last one. When Derek Gateman and I took up cleaning up the electoral registers in 1983, we ended up citing the PUP and the UDP. No, I found that rather strange. I expected the PUP to fight us, but the UDP voted to get into it. And the fight they fought was a vicious one, though. Vicious one. So we had it, we were attacked between two armies, PUP army and UDP army. And it must have been some years later, maybe about 7-8 years later, I was speaking to a ranking UDP. And I commented on that. I said I never understood why the United Democratic Party fought us. And the person laughing said, but you don't know why? We will have the first party too. And when I told your grandaunt, Christelle Strong, she said, but Sandra, I thought you knew. I said, no, I didn't. I said, because Mrs. Strong, God sent us knowledge only when we need it. Because if I had realized that was the way, I would have walked away from that site and wasted no time. But because I didn't grasp that, I couldn't figure out what those they thought of vicious fights were there.
I have to go to break now, Ms. Corey, but thank you very much. This is WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. Up next, we've got 2 Cents Camry, sponsored by 4 Point Security, and then we take our first break of the morning. When we come back, we're going to shift a bit. We have a special guest coming in to have a conversation with us virtually. This is Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes on Creme Radio XTV.
You're watching WB and this is XTV. And I got to say big respect to our sponsors, 4 Point Security. You know, in a long time or so, people have been claiming that the justice system failed there and they decide to take justice in their own hand. That they're talking in the streets. So I can find out the people in 2 cents and how they feel about the justice system and if they get a fair share in the justice world. Let's go find the people in 2 cents. Tell them no more.
Some are there, not all. Some.
Okay.
Some people, they take justice in their own hand.
That's your 2 cents.
Yes, that's my 2 cents.
Justice in their own hands by...
Like if we believe and get justice. You think the justice system is fair to the community?
Oh, no. The justice only seems to work for the people that will have the pocket full where could buy their way out.
All right. That's your 2 cents.
That's my 2 cents.
Alright.
Justice system is irregular. When I mean irregular, it's irregular. Because now they deal with people where they want to deal with. They don't deal with people for the crime or the criminal act or whatsoever they get charged for. So now you to be friend to a criminal. And then friend and criminal no mix.
Yeah.
Because we have got this whole country and I need to upload we don't need man body.
So that's your 2 cents.
My 2 cents is the justice system need to refrain.
Well, for you take justice in your own hand, brother, you have got consequence. If you take justice,
That's your 2 cents.
my 2 cents.
welcome back to the WB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's Wednesday morning, the 26th of February 2025. This Wednesday morning, we have very special traffic connecting to us from over the ocean. We have joining us via Zoom, I believe we do have Brother Gosh John, who's been here before, but only with Sister Yaya. This is Sister Yaya's special elder, but we are going to borrow him this morning a little bit here. Brother Gus, it's a pleasure, an honor to have you on this morning when I'm hosting. Writer, activist, based in the UK. Greetings and welcome to our show this morning, sir.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be with you.
I'm not hearing you.
It's wonderful to be with you. Thank you very much for that welcome.
All right, now I'm hearing you. Great. But it's always a enlightening process to, at least speaking from my position, to engage with a consciousness that is outside of your immediate area, and you're in, I know I said the belly of the beast, but you're in one of the large nations of planet Earth, and so you are tuned in and you have proximity to things which we can only engage and understand from a distance. Is there anything, but you got up this morning and you said, if I had an opportunity to share with my brothers and sisters in this beautiful country, which I believe you have not visited as yet, but I'm hearing stuff, but I will leave that to Sister Yaya. Tell me what, if any, do you have that you would say as a high priority point, a knowledge, understanding that you would like to share with us here in Belize?
Well, thank you again for welcoming me. The first thing I would want to say really is that given the geopolitical scene at the minute, it has become increasingly important that we follow Maurice Bishop's vision of a one Caribbean. I believe that the countries of the region have got to come together structurally in a manner that enables the weakest of them to be strong, in a manner that enables them all to have a greater presence on the global scene, and particularly not to be so dependent upon the United States of America. I don't want to go into the business of the dangers of Trumpism just now, but what I want to say is that it is not feasible for many of those island states to continue as sovereign states, given the dangers, the challenges that come, particularly from climate change, particularly from globalization, and the inevitable movement of people across borders and boundaries. So that's my first point. My desire is to see one Caribbean with a greater degree of unity and collaboration amongst nations and peoples. And particularly in the light of our common heritage, which is of people who were once enslaved and who have been placed on pieces of rock in the Caribbean Sea, which was not of our choosing, and simply left there by imperialists and colonialists who decided to take their attention elsewhere. We have a responsibility to ourselves and to the legacy that our ascended ancestors have left us. That's the first point. The second point is, in relation to this, that the African Union, since 2003, has been pursuing a goal of making the global African diaspora the sixth region of Africa. It's now 22 years, pretty much, since they passed that resolution in Addis Ababa. And not much has happened in those 23 years. For about 14 of those years, I was a member of the African Union's Technical Committee of Experts, and with the responsibility of working out the modalities for making the global African diaspora the sixth region. Work stalled to a large extent because the African Union itself couldn't decide where they wanted to go. Not all member states had signed on to that resolution. And even now, not all member states welcome the idea of the sixth region becoming an integral part of the African Union. So we have a lot of work to do in that regard. But irrespective of how slowly or how fast the African Union as an entity moves to achieve that goal, we have a responsibility ourselves, whether it be by bilateral arrangements or whatever other means. We have a responsibility to forge closer links with the motherland on a number of indices: education, culture, including sport, science, and engineering, environmental protection, ecological repair, and particularly self-repair. We have a lot of self-repairing to do as a people because of the legacy of colonialism and imperialism, and the way in which we have been encouraged to be distant from one another, the way in which imperialist and colonialist nation, France, Spain, Britain particularly, have used divide and rule and set our people against one another. So it's a major project, and it is one that is being pursued at the minute in a very piecemeal sort of way. And I'm suggesting that that needs to come together much, much more advantageously by the region coming together to begin with, and understanding and exploiting our strengths and being better prepared to tackle our weaknesses.
From your vantage point, Brother Gus, do you see that type of spirit of integration, that type of collaborative coming together of kinfolk being achieved via enlightened leadership in the Caribbean and Africa? Or do you view that part as having to be one that comes through the lifting of everyday people's understanding and consciousness of the realities, and then to have the people's consciousness be imposed on our leaders? I ask that because I am not particularly optimistic about the former of leaders leading us to consciousness, because every day, even now in the midst of this escalated level, elevated level of turmoil and chaos on the global level, I don't find the leadership of the respective regions as being very inspiring at all. So
I would agree.
What are your thoughts on how this can be achieved, or how we can somehow get to that point?
No, I agree with you entirely. The leadership is nothing short of woeful. I mean, many of the leaders would like to hear me say that, but it is a fact. It is woeful. And as a matter of fact, we all, irrespective of what islands we are from, we as people of the Caribbean have had cause to take heart in the last period because of the leadership being shown by Mia Mottley in Barbados. Now, I mean, Barbados has got its own internal problems. Let's not forget that. But at the same time, as a national leader and as someone with a powerful voice in the region, Mia Mottley manages to represent the region, in my view, in a manner that suggests a level of political consciousness and a vision which is not entirely shared amongst our own colleagues, amongst other leaders in the region. And I think the reason for that is this. After abolition, these colonial powers were very smart. They believed in succession planning, and they made sure that the succession planning installed people like you and me in those countries to manage people like you and me for their interests, not for the interests of Belize or Grenada or Trinidad or Jamaica or whatever, but for British interests. And that's the pattern that has persisted. So that in 1972, when Britain decided to dig up and go and join the European Club of Nations, turning its back on the Caribbean, one saw all the protections went in terms of tariffs and trade, in terms of infrastructural development, whatever you might want to name. So, in the same way that it was not in their interest to continue to be in the Caribbean, well, yes, we did fight for and demanded our independence, and we got that. But that has remained to this day what I call flag and anthem independence. You know, we stay in Europe here or across the water in the United States, and every year we have these grand ceremonies and so on. We celebrate the independence of Grenada, of Trinidad, of Jamaica, whichever country it happens to be. But then once the celebrations are done and we've done the dancing and the singing and the, you know, all the good cuisine and all of that stuff, we go back to where we were before. And you're not seeing too many signs of the benefits of independence from these colonial countries. So that is why I was saying there needs to be a reset. The model that was left as a result of colonialism, we've got to transform. We've got to break that mold. Grenada, where I'm from, is a small country, 135 square miles, just over 100,000 people. But the dissembling, the divisions that are sown in that place as a result of that two-party parliamentary system, where one set of crooks give way to another set of crooks and the people are caught squeezed in the middle, is something that we have to reconsider. Okay, I do not believe that every country would go the way of Maurice Bishop and the New Jewel movement in Grenada in 1979. And it is a tragedy, a historical tragedy, that experiment failed, because it did have the beginnings of installing people's power, of ensuring people were nearer to strategic management of their affairs and organizing collectively in their own interests. as distinct from these partisan system of operating, where you have this color and that color, this set of buntings and that set of buntings, and the interests of the entire nation get sacrificed at that altar of division. So we need to reconsider what all of that means. Those places are too small for one party to be arguing about who has got a better record on mending potholes, who has a better record on shipping stuff that should remain in the island to feed people to other parts of the world. These are things which parish councils, people's assemblies, and other forms of social organization and governance should be dealing with on a day-to-day basis in the most open, frank, and democratic way. And part of the problem we have, which is why I agree totally with you about leadership, is that leaders manipulate the population for narrow interests and often narrow personal interests. So that issues get bounced around or ignored depending upon the particular disposition of a leader or her or his party. And those issues are real. Poverty, elderly social care, sexual exploitation of young people, quality of education, levels of literacy, agriculture, and the fact that too many young people are turning away from land. The fact that the governments themselves are selling land off to foreign people, and not necessarily foreign black people either. People with so-called high net worth individuals coming in and buying huge swathes of land and then preventing people from crossing through that land to go to the beach. And all of that is being done in plain sight by our own governments. There is no reason, for example, why any of those islands should be importing more food than they grow. Should be spending a whole heap of their GDP on imports of stuff that ought to be grown, while all the agricultural lands are covered in bush and forests and things. And it is interesting, isn't it, that the extent to which agriculture as a science, agriculture as a career and occupation is taught in schools is zilch. It is as if because our ancestors were enslaved on the lands, land is taboo. You can't get anybody to go and work a piece of land and plant stuff for you, especially as you grow older in those places. There's something fundamentally wrong with that. And it is until our leaders understand what that means in terms of our sustainability and our future that we begin to get some sense of the direction in which the country needs to go. The civil service cannot absorb the number of people in the population who leave school with huge qualifications and so on and so forth. The civil service, the country generally, and its commercial sector can't absorb all of those people who are whiz kids at IT and new technology and the rest of it. So we need to have a mix of career opportunities for young people. And we need to get them to understand that while people of my parents' generation, and to a certain extent people of my generation, have had a premium on careers such as medicine, becoming a doctor, becoming a lawyer, becoming an architect, etc. There's a narrow band of people who would get into those fields, and yes, we do need them. But it is as important for young people to think of being farmers even if it's peasant farming on the lands that are bequeathed to them by their own elders, it's important that they know that when they produce, there's not a glut of carrots and cabbage and cassava or whatever it is, but there are ways of ensuring that those goods are moved on, the population is fed, there is a marketing strategy for the extras, and so people see some benefit from going and slogging on the land and producing all of that stuff. We don't have that mentality. In fact, there was a prime minister in Grenada who was suggesting to young people that agriculture is some kind of a taboo. Completely backward. And to have that kind of nonsense from a leader of state is simply unforgivable, in my view. So when I talk about a reset, well, what I'm saying is we need to understand all of those issues. There are some structural faults in the system, including the way in which we transmit values to young people, the way they treat one another, in relationships, out of relationships, the way they treat parents and elders. If we don't take stock, pretty soon many of those places would I mean, it is just pretty depressing for me to consider the place where I grew up for part of my time before coming to Britain, Trinidad and Tobago, is now one of the killing fields of the world. The number of murders in that place, given its size of population, is simply unbelievable. And the same is true of Jamaica. And the question is, these things are systemic. I do not believe that people in Trinidad or Jamaica are congenitally prone to evil and to murder and mayhem any more than people in any other part of the world or any other part of the Caribbean. Those things are systemic. And we need to understand what the structural bases of them are and begin to tackle that. More and more extrajudicial killings by the police won't do it. More and more prisons to imprison people won't do it. That's you know, a sort of handcart to hell kind of solution.
But of course,
and so it's all of those things that we need to think about and ask ourselves, what are we as a region bringing to this whole process of unifying the diaspora with the continent of Africa?
But I guess on that note, I'll take a break and come back. There's more for us to discuss. That's Brother Gus John, a writer, activist, elder from the UK, residing in the UK. We're going to take a break and come back. right, welcome back to the WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes on this Wednesday morning, the 26th of February, 2025. We're having a conversation right now with esteemed guests out of the UK, Brother Gus John, who is a writer, activist, and elder. He's a Grenadian, I believe, by birth, Brother Gus, but presently living in the UK. He's done some important conversations with Sister Yaya both on Sunday mornings, as well as when Sister Yaya has hosted this program. So you're no stranger to our audience here on Creme Radio and XTV. It's my first time actually meeting and engaging. And I go back to this original challenge we have. How to realign, is it leadership or is it people? Do we need to change first as individuals, as a collective, as a community? Do we need to realign what we think leaders are to be and what their purpose is supposed to be and what our expectations are of them? I ask that in light of the fact that very infrequently will you have people complain about the lack of statements or lack of engagement, the lack of any type of participation by our leaders in response to what is going on the global stage. When we compare that, for example, to how the European countries and their leaderships, the speed with which they are responding to the changing tectonic plates of geopolitics, and especially in light of the return of Mr. Trump to his presidency, we see the minute they discern troubling patterns in the rhythm of that relationship, they have met, they are changing. I know, for example, I think in the next couple of days, no less than the Prime Minister of UK is in Washington. I think yesterday, of course, we spoke about it earlier. They're changing budget for defense and all that. There are changes taking place. And at least from my vantage point, I have not experienced that kind of palpable response at the level of leadership in the Caribbean. Maybe it's happening, but it's not, those song waves are not reaching me. Maybe African leadership is responding, and they're responding to the urgency of the time, but just that I am not privy to that. I have not heard much on what's going on in the DRC and the role that Rwanda is playing in that. We're not hearing. In fact, what we get is, there's just this great lack of presence, and there's a sense of urgency coming out of our leadership. But then I look at it and say, if we, as a people, have this consciousness of that and have an expectation of that in great numbers, I am of the feeling that leaders would feel a sense, well, that is an obligation that they have. But right now, at least from my vantage point, Brother Gus, I am not experiencing an appropriate level of alertness and engagement, even as we have the greatest movement of the geopolitical tectonic plates that we have experienced in a very long time. I mean, the rules are being rewritten every day. And we are here, as you have said, still quarreling about who did better with potholes. We are in that kind of mindset. At least that is, again, what I am experiencing.
I think this is a fair summary of the actual situation. I mean, you are much closer to it in the region than I am, but I think that is fair. Let me make 2 points about that and why I think that kind of mindset and that situation persists. The first point I want to make is this: that whatever strengths there might be in this democratic process, and clearly there are many, the one fault line in it is this: there is, on everybody's part, and particularly of parties and the leaders, the assumption that once people have marked a ballot, and they determine, or they say who it is that they voted for, their job's done. They have thereby transferred their power and decision making to whoever it is they voted for, and the party leader. Now that leads to an enormous amount of political literacy. It leads to cynicism, and it leads to people's alienation from what ought to be the democratic process. Because what that results in, frankly, and we've seen it all over the place. We've seen it in relation to elections in the Caribbean. We've seen it in this country with any succession of leaders, particularly during the time of people like Margaret Thatcher. What it leads to is what many of us have called a sort of elective dictatorship. So you cast your votes, one particular party wins, and they then go on to do all kinds of things in your name, even though those things that they're doing are not in your interests. And so there is, as you see, a correlation between the leadership and the quality of the leadership and the situation of the people. But what should determine the quality of the leadership is what the people do in their own self-organization on the ground. If you have people meeting in not just in sort of pressure groups, etc., but in carefully planned and structured and formatted forums, whether it be at ward level, at parish level, or whatever it is, and those people are attending to matters that concern them in their daily existence. Potholes could be one of them, because they damage the cars and then they have to spend a whole lot of money fixing the cars. They could be dangerous and cause accidents and people could die. Potholes are important. But what I'm saying is that those kinds of matters, drainage, soil erosion, people cutting down trees with abandon, and not understanding the danger that there is in that, in terms of soil and environmental damage and so on and so forth. Those kinds of issues ought to be debated by the person who plants his yams twice a year, or by the woman who is a cleaner, or by the people whom the government employs to trim the bush on the sides of the road, or whatever else it may be, as well as the teachers and the doctors and other such people in the community. So what I'm saying is that presumed transfer of active citizenship and participatory democracy, that the assumed transfer of that to the person you vote for and their party is crippling, and it's crippled our peoples for generations. So what matters is how we organize people's power, and how that power both appoints those whom we want to continue to represent our interests nationally and on the international stage, how it impacts upon them and holds them accountable. At the minute, the only way most of these governments are held accountable is when you next go to cast your vote. Meanwhile, There could be all kinds of mayhem going on in the place. The leaders themselves could be as corrupt as hell. And you could do very little about that. So we need to turn that on its head and replace power in the hands of people. Sorry, go on.
But August, just kind of like, I wouldn't call it great timing, it's quite a timing. So we're having this conversation about how, and we've been having this conversation for weeks, in particular in light of Mr. Trump's presidency and the wrecking ball that he has brought to geopolitical rhythms, and everything is in chaos right now, right? So, but we've been saying, listen, these things are happening. Something might not happen immediately that impacts the region, but it's going to come. You look at what's going on, and you know, okay, the region we had an opportunity to be preemptive, I feel. Now, in the middle of our conversation, Brother Gus, I get a WhatsApp message from a former Minister of Foreign Affairs of the country. Now, I have to say, I don't normally get messages from people who are the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, especially but this particular message that he shared is something that apparently happened yesterday, and I was not even aware. And this is breaking news. There has been an expansion of visa restrictions policy for individuals exploiting Cuban labor. Now, this is from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State of the United States of America, who is a Cuban American. He's a part of that, the Cuban diaspora in Florida. And I will just read it verbatim, and then we can have a conversation about the implications for the Caribbean and where we will stand on this. But I think it's the fact that it was shared with me. It shows this is breaking news. In fact, it says, today we announced the expansion of an existing Cuban-related visa restriction policy that targets forced labor linked to the Cuban labor export program. This expanded policy applies to current or former Cuban government officials and other individuals, including foreign government officials, who are believed to be responsible for or involved in the Cuban labor export program, particularly Cuba's overseas medical missions. This policy also applies to the intermediate family of such persons. The department has already taken steps to impose visa restrictions on several individuals, including Venezuelans, under this expanded policy. Cuba continues to profit from the forced labor of its workers, and the regime's abusive and coercive labor practices are well documented. Cuba's labor export programs, which include the medical missions, enrich the Cuban regime, and in the case of Cuba's overseas medical missions, deprive ordinary Cubans of the medical care they desperately need in their home country. The United States is committed to countering forced labor practice around the globe. To do so, we must promote accountability not just for Cuban officials for these policies, but also those complicit in the exploitation and forced labor of Cuban workers. Now, I imagine that you are aware. I see you smiling, so I know you right away understand the significant implications of that. To this region, to Caribbean, to Latin America. We know that Belize, for example, benefited from Cuban medical missions that came in the pandemic. We know that our nursing shortages have been filled from time to time with Cuban nurses. We know we have Cuban nurses, we have Cuban doctors. This is an attack on the relationship of CARICOM with Cuba, where now you are essentially saying that at the level of the elected officials, you are complicit in essentially human trafficking. and you're going to be penalized for that. This is just a little, you would say, this is a teaspoon, I feel, of what is to come insofar as the escalating level of zero tolerance for anything less than bending your knee and being completely subservient to Washington in 2025. It's just the first little salvo they are firing with this, but this is also, I feel it's going to test the CARICOM's position over the years of kind of being more supportive, more willing to speak with courage on the matter of Cuba. This now comes home, and we now see how CARICOM responds. I don't know if you have some thoughts that you would want to weigh in on that.
Indeed, I mean, it's a travesty. It is a form of international bullying by the United States of America. Is their attempt to squeeze the regime in Cuba, is their attempt to nullify all the stuff that you've been talking about. Not only when Maurice Bishop and the People's Revolutionary Government were governing Grenada, but before that, and particularly since, Cuba has played a major role in healthcare provision in that country. In St. George's, the capital of Grenada, there's a massive compound owned by the St. George's University, which is an American university. There they train medical people, vets, and all sorts of other people to do with medical services and medical provision. And yet, the state of the hospitals in Grenada, the state of hospital clinical care and primary health care is appalling. So they benefit greatly, and they have all kinds of tax concessions and the rest of it, from having that most glorious geographical location in the country. They train doctors to go back to the United States, etc. They contribute very little to wellness and health in the island itself. Cuba, on the other hand, as you were indicating in relation to Belize, they send doctors, they send nurses, they send veterinary surgeons, the whole gamut. And when other places try to squeeze countries like Angola and Mozambique and Ghana and so forth, Cuba sends medical staff, doctors, nurses, anesthetists, and so on, to those places to provide health care for the people. So Rubio, he's a hawk, all right? He is one of Trump's nasty men. And CARICOM should put his foot down and say, no, this isn't going to happen. We are going to improve our relationship with Cuba. We are grateful for what it as a small country has been doing in relation to our health care provision within our respective countries. And we won't be bullied by Rubio, by Donald Trump, or by the United States of America. And let me say one more thing. One of the directives that executive orders that Trump rolled out on the 20th of January had to do with so-called illegal migrants, undocumented migrants. And Rubio and that lot are traversing the region to try and get governments to agree to take back people from their countries that have not been documented, even though they may have lived in the United States for 20 and 30 and 40 years. Now, I mean, there is some, and Britain, of course, is doing the same thing. And pretty soon, you would find loads of flights landing in these countries, bringing back nationals. Now, those people would have given most of the best years to America, not drawing benefit and welfare, etc., but working. And some of them work 3 and 4 and 5 jobs in order to educate themselves, educate their children. And they're providing elderly social care, child care, and other services, so that the people for whom they work could go to work and build the economy. And you know what ought to happen, frankly, and I know it won't. What ought to happen is all of those people who are in those positions, both documented and undocumented, should simply stay home for one day across the country, and demonstrate to Trump and that reactionary neo-fascist lot that they could condemn and demonize those people as much as they like, but their role within the economy of the United States is so pivotal that they should stop messing with them. That's what needs to happen. I don't think it will. And you would find governments saying, yes, massa, we will take back our people. You just send the planes. We would take them back without any concern for their own needs, housing, social care, education, and the rest of it. Well,
worse than that, but because we seem not to, at least again, I've not heard anybody go on the record to draw a line to say you cannot send someone from our country, and I would dare say from our region, and put them on Guantanamo Bay.
Exactly. But precisely.
I've not heard our region speak up against that. I believe the Prime Minister of St. Vincent, Gonzalez, I think, I heard him put questions on the record. I read an article about that, questioning how you can decide to ship back people and not have a conversation with the leadership of their respective countries. At the very least, to prepare, to have a documentation, to have these countries know, well, what's the background of the individuals that are coming. Because not everybody that you're sending here, as you have rightfully described, has gone there recently. You are sending back, there are going to be those that you send home, and we have heard our leadership here say, well, you know, we are okay, just send them back home. But there are going to be a number of people who come back to nothing. There are other family members that they have abroad. They are coming back. They don't have land, they don't have a house, they will have to try to find out who are their family members now. There's a whole process of kind of getting a person almost, reintegrated into society that they have no previous connections with, even though they have Belizean ancestry. They do not have living connections within the societal fabric. That is not something that you don't prepare for, and to just say we have a plane coming in today, and some of your people are coming off the plane without even the decency of a prior conversation is absolute disrespect. I heard one particular Caribbean leader speak out against it, Bodagus.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right, and they should speak against it on another count as well. You know, and I know, because it's well established in terms of research evidence, that the remittances that those same people whom they're going to be sending back have been sending for years have propped up the economies of the region. Remittances from Britain, from North America, including Canada, etc., have propped up the GDP of the region in a way, in much more solidly and sustainably than tourism does. Yeah, and okay, so
that was proven during the pandemic. So yes.
So Trump and his people have decided to abandon USAID. I had problems with that for other reasons. So you're removing USAID, but at the same time you're squeezing those countries by sending back people who have been supporting them financially through these remittances. And I mean, I can't understand why CARICOM as a collective, as well as individual governments, haven't been speaking up against that stuff. And now what Trump is doing is saying, in the event that any one country doesn't want to take back its people for whatever reasons, we're going to make sure we get other countries to receive them. So whether you're from Grenada or not, if Jamaica agrees that that it will receive nationals from other countries, you just put them on planes and send them to Jamaica, in spite of the needs of the Jamaican people themselves. The whole thing is iniquitous. And as you say, there's not enough political pushback against that from our leaders or from CARICOM as a collective.
Before I let you go, Brother Gus, I need to get your thoughts on the situation in the DRC and the reports of Rwanda's complicit behavior when it comes to the tragedy that's unfolding in the DRC.
Yes. Well, look, you know, I could go on a lot about that. Let me just say this. I believe that that situation and the fact that it developed at all is to a very large extent a fault of the African Union itself. There really is no purpose in having all of these great summits all over the place if you can't deal with that kind of emerging situation and allow M23 and the rest of them to go around the place with impunity, doing what they're doing. I do not believe the Prime Minister of Rwanda when he says that they're not causing any problems. It's the DRC that wants to occupy land and in the east of the Congo and so on. That doesn't make any sense. And as a matter of fact, last night I was looking at a report on one of these channels here in the UK of the number of women who perished in that fire in Goma when the prison was set alight. I mean, there is a measure of barbarism being visited upon people on the African continent, which has been going on for ages, and it mirrors what the British themselves and the Germans and the Belgians, Leopold in Belgium, devastated that country and decimated its population by millions. And here we are inflicting that suffering on ourselves. There's generations of trauma in that poor country, and the African Union seems totally powerless in doing anything at all about it. And similarly, Britain has been totally focused on Ukraine. Ukrainians were invited to come, and British homes were asked to open up your homes and have Ukrainian refugees. Anybody coming from Goma to Britain is sent back. Anybody coming from Darfur to Britain is not seen as a legitimate refugee. So there's something fundamentally racist about the policies of places like Germany and France and Britain, where that is concerned. And one doesn't hear the African Union, or for that matter, the Commonwealth, speaking about it. You know, Charles, the king of this place, is now head of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth should have been buried at the same time as Queen Elizabeth II. That did not happen. They've embraced Charles as head of the Commonwealth. And it's Britain that is doing all of this rubbish as an ally in its own right and as an ally of the United States. So that takes us back to where we were at the beginning of this conversation. When would the black world be able to assert itself and demonstrate its own power in these geopolitical scenarios? That's the fundamental question.
But of course, I want to thank you for your time this morning and for your input and for your thoughts that you've contributed to our audience and to myself. Definitely, you've given us a lot. And we hope that there are those out there listening, watching, that have listened and have, at the very least, opened up a bit of hunger for their own pursuit of knowledge and understanding, because it's at that singular level that's how we become more powerful. Each individual's mind that pursues a better understanding and love of self and what their expectations are that we should have, not only of ourselves but those that represent us, brings us along that path to the vision that you shared when you first started to speak this morning. So I want to thank you for that, and thank you for your time this morning, and hopefully we will have, this is the first of many conversations that you and I will have. I'll have to borrow you a little bit from Sister Yaya. I'm sure she doesn't mind at all.
Thank you, my brother. It's been wonderful having this conversation with you. And I wish your listeners well, and I wish you well in your upcoming elections.
All right, thank you. We go to break, we'll be back.
In Belize, we value our
All right, welcome back. This is time to close the shop for today. WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. For today, Wednesday, we're going to finish off with our final break. We thank you all for being here with us. We always give thanks to the team, Larry G at Crum Radio, the Glue at XTV, Mr. Cliff Lewis, and Director Ms. Alexa Belide. I'm going to finish off with a break, but as always, stand strong, stand firm. We're gone.
The Social Security Board, in collaboration with the Labor Department,